Welcome, my friends, back to Beyond the Well, where forgotten histories and untold legends awaken. I never expected to find that well, hidden deep in the woods behind my house. But when I touched its sacred water, I saw more than my own reflection. I saw another world. A world shaped by light and shadow, by heroes and tyrants, by choices that still echo through time. Join me as I uncover the stories of Aldarion that lie beyond the well. Morvana, Harbinger of Destruction. Episode 3, The Descent of Syris. The trees of the Emberlin swallowed her. The reality of her situation caved in on her mind. The prison, her mother, the promises, Breldar, Tavian. It was all too overwhelming. She recalled the intense rush she had felt when Tavian fell before her, and shuddered as she compared it to the way her body was now shaking. Branches clawed at Syris's cloak, like the accusing hands of ghosts, but she did not stop. She could still feel Tavian's blood beneath her fingernails, sticky and hot. His voice, those final screams, echoed louder than the wind, louder than her heartbeat. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs trembled, until the trees blurred into one another and even the sky above seemed to recoil in silence. By the time she collapsed beside a crooked stream, night had fallen. Alone. Again. She curled herself into a ball, shivering despite the heat in her veins. The child within her stirred, as if sensing the chaos that surrounded them. She pressed her hand to her belly and whispered, "You're all I have left." But even as she said it, she knew there was more. Something else. She had been hearing whispers. They had followed her since the prison. The seductive murmurings that came through the Nexus, slithering through her thoughts like mist. At first they were faint, like distant songs beneath water, but now they were close, clear, and calling. She didn't sleep that night. She sat beside the stream, staring into the ripples, her reflection fractured and strange. And in the morning, the path she would walk was clearer than ever. She turned away from what would have led her back to Breldar or any other village. She would never submit to anyone or anything. No more would she be bound by the will of a man. She walked deeper into the forest. Days passed, weeks. The time began to bleed oddly in the wild. Syris hunted when she could, drank when the rains came, slept curled in the hollows like a beast. Her body changed, hardened. Her skin grew pale, her eyes sharper, more hollow. The child within her did not weaken. If anything, it thrived. She delved deeper into the woods, past the reaches of the mapped trails, into the places where the roots grew like veins and even birds dare not sing. She reached out with the Nexus and let herself begin to blend with all the deep dark parts of the forest. The creatures recoiled or bowed in reverent awe. Her connection through the dark side of the Nexus deepened. Even the swamps and the trees bent to her will. She made a home of the forest, and the untouched landscape welcomed her. The Nexus was no longer a presence at the edge of her mind. It was inside of her now, a constant hum beneath her thoughts, like a second heartbeat. In sleep, she dreamed of shadows that took shape, pale-eyed creatures with long limbs and mouths that never closed. They whispered secrets in languages she didn't understand, but still she listened. In waking hours, she began to test the limits of her power. She'd whisper to dying things, rabbits caught in traps, birds with broken wings, and feel the moment their pain became hers. She drank it in, not for pleasure, not for strength, but because it was the only thing that made her feel real. The abyss called to her, echoes that urged her to move certain stones to certain places, to chant ritual words she didn't know or understand. She didn't try to understand, she just followed the whispers. One particular place that called to her was a clearing, and she arranged the stones into a circle. She could feel a pulse, a hum, a gateway. Ironically, she called it Koyera's Holler. She would visit ritualistically every morning and every evening. The holler gave her a rhythm, a reason. It grounded her, and as the weeks passed, she grew larger and larger with child. It was close. One night, while lying in the center of the ring, she heard the voice. Not a whisper, not an echo, a voice. You walk in circles, always closer, always deeper, but you have not yet crossed. She turned. The forest was still. Moonlight filtered through the bare branches like prison bars. I don't know what you mean, she said aloud. The voice laughed. It was neither cruel nor kind, just amused. You do. You've always known. You've touched the veil but never passed through. Let me show you what waits in worlds beyond. The ground beneath her quaked, not violently, but with purpose. A rhythm pulsed through the earth, a heartbeat, not her own. Shadows gathered, folding in upon themselves until the stone ring around her began to glow. And then, the earth split open. Not with fire, not with chaos, with memory. She fell through, or perhaps she sank. There was no sense of motion, only sensation, cold, distant, and hollow. Syris blinked, and the world around her changed. She stood on the banks of a city drowned in ash, towers twisted like bones reaching for a gray sky. People wandered in silence, their mouths sewn shut, their eyes bleeding light. Chains bound their hands to spectral burdens, memories perhaps, or to regrets. The first plane of existence, a voice whispered behind her. The hell of the living. She saw herself, child, prisoner, outcast. Faces she had forgotten, voices that had cursed her. Every step she took brought her past to life again. But this time she walked through them, watched, accepted, and let go. The earth rumbled. She saw the people of Aldarion walking, not knowing they were already in the first layer of hell. Ever close to the powers beneath that reached for them, she saw with clarity the reaches of the dark mist that pushed into this level, and wondered aloud, where does that come from? A narrow door appeared, black and smooth as obsidian, hovering over nothing. Syris passed through. She saw into the next world. It was worse. This second layer of hell was a vast cathedral of mirrors and glass that looked outward onto the first plane of hell. Wraiths of all type moved about, some great and terrible, some weak and wanting, being pushed about by those with more power. Dread and fear soaked the air like a heavy fog, obscuring her view. She moved up to the wall of the massive building and looked out. She saw both her own reflection as well as the people on the outside. The mirrors cast her own lies and distortions onto the world, an ugly reflection of what she saw in herself, and pushed it out onto all those around her. She saw herself as she was imprisoned, small and weak. I am strong, though, she tried to tell herself. Then the mirror showed her begging for bread. They fear me. And then the mirror showed her huddled in the corner of a cell, hiding from the guard's gaze. But I am in control. The mirror showed her Tavian, smiling, screaming. She struck the mirror, but it did not break. The mirror multiplied. Then came the voice. You belong here. You were made for this. There is no light in you, child. She collapsed to her knees, clutching her belly. No, she whispered. The mirrors melted, and standing before her, tall and cloaked in smoke, was a figure with no face, only a crown of horns and a voice like thunder. You are ready, but only blood opens the way. A shaft of pitch split her vision. The narrowest wedge that held two worlds apart, a veil that hid one level of existence from another. A slit so narrow she could only see and never go through. Beyond it, blackness, pure and ancient, a void that pulsed with breath and thought and hunger. She knew this was the third level of hell, where overlords reigned, where demons were born. She stepped forward and opened the way with her mind, her bare feet upon the cold obsidian bridge that arched over nothing. The way is shut, child of flesh. She reached instinctively and touched something in front of her. Then, an unmeasurable force threw her backwards. Never before had she felt such force. It was so powerful it bent her will, changed her in that instant. The voice greeted her again, but now it was different and familiar. Syris Koyera. She froze. Daughter of light, vassal of wrath. Who are you? I am the first hunger, the last king, and the final god. His presence crushed the space around her. The bridge groaned, her knees buckled, her mind tore open, and she saw far off a throne. The throne of hunger, a place where all is devoured, consumed, and taken. She did not want to see who sat there. She held her eyes down and closed tight, but she was beyond the physical abilities and limitations. An unseen force lifted her chin and forced her to gaze. There, on the throne, sat Vorath. He was not man, not beast. His form shifted constantly. Horns, wings, voids, flame. His eyes held eternity. In his smile was the death of suns. She collapsed under his gaze, her body breaking apart at the edges like ash in the wind. You are not enough. His voice broke mountains around her. But you carry what I need. I have nothing, she screamed, tears cutting down her filthy cheeks. There was a long pause. Then, you have everything. Instinctively, she clutched her belly. The child stirred. No, she whispered. He is not yours. Blood, name, will. She could see now that through this oath he could bind a sliver of himself into the mortal world. A narrow thread, a gate not wide, but wide enough to start something that would trigger a landslide of events. A gift, an oath, a name. You will be more than a witch, more than exile. You, mother of Harbinger. His name will be Morvana, and through him, my dominion begins. The silence that followed his voice was shattering. Syris fell to her knees and whispered, I give him to you. It's all I want. The moment the words left her lips, the void laughed. It was more than sound. It was the tearing of her very existence, a reality splitting her down the middle. The bridge vanished, and the world collapsed. Syris woke, still laying in Koyera's holler. The stones now burned a deep crimson, and all the grass inside and surrounding the stone was burned to nothing, a charred wasteland. Her body slick with sweat, her nails were bloodied from clawing at the earth, and her belly heavy and taut with an impending birth. She wept, not from pain, but from release, from knowing she had crossed. There was no going back. Syris Koyera was dead. And even as the thought entered her mind, she heard a voice call. Syris, Syris, Velthara, mother of destruction. Rise. She felt a power lift her up off the ground. She landed on her feet. Syris Valthara, the bound, the broken, the chosen of Vorath. And within her womb, something stirred. Not a flutter, not a kick, a presence. And she knew the binding had taken. Morvana. The name was etched into her soul now. It was not the one she chose, it was given. The name of darkness, of purpose. From that moment on, she felt no loneliness. The Nexus was part of her, deeper than bone. And Vorath? He never seemed far. His voice returned in fragments, in dreams. Then, one night, the stars turned red, and she knew. Labor came like a storm, wild and brutal. The forest bent in agony with her, thunder cracking overhead as if the sky itself feared what was arriving. She screamed, her blood mixed with the runes. Fire lit without spark, shadows danced without form. The air split, and when he came forth, Morvana did not cry. He opened his eyes. The forest stilled. Syris looked upon her son, and for the briefest moment, she saw her own mother's eyes. Then the child blinked, and that vision vanished, and what stared back at her was something new, something destined. She cradled him in both arms, trembling and triumphant. "You are mine, but more than mine." A breeze touched her cheek. Then a voice. "The first gate is open." And far, far beneath Aldarion, in the third layer of hell, Vorath stood from his throne and began to walk forward. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for coming with me beyond the well. If you enjoyed this story, please consider liking, following, or subscribing. And if you have a moment, I would love a review. Your feedback truly makes a difference. If you want to dive deeper into the well, visit beyondthewell.net for show notes, transcripts, maps, character descriptions, and much, much more. And until next time, keep seeking, keep dreaming, and keep telling your story. Bye.